Welcome, Sandra. I'm so excited to have this opportunity to talk to you about our mutual passion, which is health and nutrition, and especially on this topic of women over 50, which is sort of a nebulous area in many cases.
It is. Thanks, Mary. I'm really nice to reconnect with you and understand a little bit more about what you're doing, and that we were able to co-create this and come together today. So I'm really, really happy that you've invited me. Thank you. It's an honor.
Well, it's my honor and privilege. So before we go and plunge into the whole world of nutrition and supplements for women over 50, I
Mhm.
love a transformation story, and I would love to hear how you ended up in nutrition.
Oh, okay. Well, the short story is that I went through divorce actually. Having had a lifestyle of having hippie parents when I was younger, I was introduced to some nutrition techniques, and I was eating brewers yeast on my oatmeal, and I was doing things that I was seeing naturopaths when it wasn't really understood, and people didn't do that. And of course, I hated it, and I thought we were a weird family. And then as I got older, I moved to Europe, and I lived in Europe for several years where I was a little bit harder on my body living in Europe, and I was young, so it was fun. And then when I came back to Canada, when I started to have children, I really dug deep. It was really important to me that I raised healthy, strong, which are now two women, so which I've done,
Mhm.
great. And so I was always interested in nutrition. I always looking for the best options for my kids. I did a lot of research. There's a whole story around breastfeeding and how I had to explore outside of that, which was devastating to me. And that's what really sent me down into it, because I felt like I was unable to breastfeed. And in fact, I was able to breastfeed, but that's another story, maybe another time. And then my ex-husband became an athlete, and we were really looking at nutrition in terms of boosting up his nutrition. So I've always been interested in nutrition and wellness just by sheer my nature. Officially, after I got divorced, I went back to school. It reignited my passion for my love, and I went back to school. I worked in the health food industry. I was a buyer at Whole Foods. I became a broker in the natural food industry, so I brought lots of foods into Canada that were healthy and nutritious foods. And then I went to school at night to become a nutritionist for 2 years at the IHN, Institute of Holistic Nutrition, where I graduated gratefully I went back to school at 43, and I graduated when I was 45. And I came out of the gate kind of very lucky, getting on with an Olympic team where I could see the proof was in the pudding.
That's tremendous. How exciting that must have been. But also, that was a jam-packed couple of years as well, to be working really on both sides of the equation, the health industry, and then the more sort of medical side, if you will,
Yeah,
uh,
it's
at
true,
the
Mary,
same
but
time.
and I know, when you're following your passion, it doesn't feel like work, Um,
Mhm.
it really I felt alive and full of passion, and I had purpose, and I knew what I wanted, and I met some incredible, incredible human beings along the way, and so it fueled me and kept me going. And then the more I fueled, the better I ate, the more it happened, the more I saw the results, and then I saw the results. Then going into my own practice with my own clients and seeing how people's lives literally morphed by simply nutrition. I mean, I come from the perspective, as you know, from body, mind,
Mhm.
spirit. They all work synergistically. So with one part sort of a little bit out of whack, we sort of the client comes and we discuss what's happening for them, and
Mhm.
say, I just need to know how many macros, how many micros, how much protein I need every day. And then somebody else might come, how many avocados do we eat a week? But I'm going through divorce. So we might focus a little bit more on kind of the emotional perspective of it, right? And getting them back on track that way. So it just depends on the client. And so you have to be a little bit of an inspector to work with,
Mhm.
so that you're offering them the best at what you've got.
Really, you're also coaching at the same time, because the gut brain link is so strong, and many might not be aware of how your emotional and mental state may impact the way you process nutrition.
This is very true. And now science, this is something we've always known in the world. And this is something now science is proving to us because it's measurable. So there's a nerve kind of runs from the gut biome through the heart axis and into the brain. And it's a nerve that runs straight up, and it's called the vagus nerve. And when it gives us the direct line of our emotions and our thought processes and things like that. So if you can imagine the gut being in dysbiosis or being not healthy, it's now signaling to the brain, you're not working at optimum. It's also unhealthy. So sometimes your thoughts can be unhealthy, and we can see this measured in mental health. I ran serendipitously there's lots of ways to stimulate the vagus nerve. Gut biome and healthy gut biome is certainly my top #1 priority, but there's lots of little tricks we can do to stimulate that vagus nerve. So for example, if you do eat well already and you take fairly good care of yourself, there's things that you can do which are going in for a cold hot immersion, where you swap out, where you have a cold, you have a hot, you have a cold, you have a hot. So the Swedes and the Nords have been using this system and techniques. And I mean, who has longevity and beauty in their lives? So look at the race, they're gorgeous. They use, and that stimulates the vagus nerve. Other areas you can do if you don't have the ability to have it get into the hot and cold, you can simply pound your chest like a gorilla, and that also stimulates your vagus nerve to be sending signals to the brain. Yeah. Lots of lovely ways.
It's such a fascinating topic. Ear massage, if you're anxious, is also wonderful for the vagus nerve, but we should all get acquainted with it, because the biggest nerve in our body, and one that links us all together, mental, emotional, and biological.
It's very true, because when you're feeling a little bit out of sorts, I mean, we've just come through a major world pandemic, and there was lots of mental health, and it wasn't always necessarily linked to what was going on with our gut biome, say. It could have been isolation. I mean, there's so many other areas around it. So I agree that it's important to keep that balance. And what you and I are talking about are some elements of that balance, creating homeostasis in the body. So if we're giving our body that opportunity to be at its best, it's working for us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's wanting us to be healthy. It's working and striving toward that when we're sleeping, when we're awake, when we're working. It does, when we're stressed, when we're happy. And so if we can give it the tools, and these are some of the tools you and I are talking about in this podcast, to allow your body to work at its most optimum, it's like putting really good fuel in the tank.
I find this whole subject area fascinating, because here we are in 2023, and I'm not sure that anybody treats perimenopause or menopause holistically. It seems that when we go to our healthcare providers, we're talking about a symptom. I have this symptom, what do I do? But no one ever looks to, well, what are the challenges before me, and how can I radiate wellness, right? How can I optimize my health, instead of thinking it in negative terms? So perhaps you can just tell us what you see generally in a woman's body at this age.
I guess I want to take the story back a little bit, because historically women's bodies weren't really studied in science. It was predominantly the male's body, which we know our bodies are far more complex and far more different. So that would be #1 that I'd like to bring to the reminder. #2, women's bodies shift and change constantly. We have to dial into our bodies essentially every month. on a 28-day cycle, and we have to do it for 30, 40 years. And so we're kind of dialed into our bodies. And I think that that's been a good thing. I'm a little bit concerned about birth control and things like that now, because I see that's not happening. You know, the women are choosing birth control without menstruating, and I don't know what the long-term effects are. And I do want to say anything I'm saying here today, I'm not a doctor. But I am a nutritionist, and I've seen the body. If you are able to give it the right power, it works. Your second comment was about there's not very many women out there using a holistic platform to approach women's health and wellness through peri and post-menopause. There is actually a doctor, and I really encourage, if this is your passion, that you'd follow and check into. She's got made two or three really good books out now. Her name is Dr. Sarah Gottfried. She's out of California. And this is her passion, and this is what she does. I find women who generally have had issues in the hormone space, that's what they've really gone into. I feel like I've been quite fortunate, not to say I haven't gone through hormonal challenges or changes. Of course I have, but it hasn't been a kind of an issue for me for my personal wellness. But in terms of that, I would look to her. She's fantastic, and she's full of knowledge, and she posts amazing information every single day on Instagram. But there are some basic things about women's health that we know. So foundationally, if you are eating healthy and well, generally you're going to fairly smoothly get through those changes. This was my third point. Society doesn't support the change in women, right?
Yes.
When women are starting perimenopause, it's essentially when they are actually getting super powerful in their careers now. So those two spaces don't align. When you're starting to your body's starting to let go of that, you're stepping into a period where you're being called to be more physical, more demanding, more intellectual, more, and you're not able to kind of just sit in the perimenopause phases joyfully. And the more stressed out you become, and the more demands you have on the body, the more you get the symptoms. So you can see how that self-perpetuates itself and turns into a crazy thing. So how do we stop that cycle? Well, first of all, have a really good foundational nutrition. And when I say nutrition, I mean obviously eating healthy and well. And there's lots of things for hormone supporting foods, nutraceuticals. So as you know, I'm orthomolecular nutritionist. So that means I'm registered, I'm insured, I'm safe, I'm certified to recommend vitamins, because not everybody can take vitamins, and there's a certain place for vitamins, and I use them a lot in my practice because I actually would rather do preventative. And lifestyle, how much space do we give ourselves? How much downtime do we give ourselves? How much guilt do we saddle ourselves with when we take that downtime? That's recurring, I see, with women. Women cannot turn off. It's difficult. And so those would be all things I think that can exacerbate. Now we get into the genetic predisposition. So we have some stuff with family and history and family history where, there's PCOS might run through the family because of estrogen dominance. And that, the first things I would look at are, what is your lifestyle? What are you eating? Are you using plastics? Are you using microplastics? What kind of hair care products? What kind of skincare products are you using? Those sort of things that create estrogen, false estrogen within the body. So those would be things that, as a nutritionist, I'd be looking closer and diving into. But if you really wanted to get some solid data, look at Dr. Sarah Gottfried. She's incredible, and she's super motivational.
When we're talking then, and I do recognize that one of the issues with menopause and post-menopause in particular is that every woman experiences those phases differently. And we're each our own chemical set. And I think that's an issue that sort of plagues healthcare providers, because there isn't a one solution fits all. For example, I pretty much sailed through perimenopause and menopause, but then I developed a bunch of environmental and food allergies, and my allergist said that's from menopause. And I had never heard of that before, but apparently it's fairly common. So what I go through and what you go through could be entirely different.
Mary, you just absolutely nailed the hammer on the head. In my practice of 10 years, with the hundreds of people that I've seen, there is not one protocol that is identical. Not one.
Oh, that's amazing.
Every single, and it's a terrible business model. Every single person I have to research data and find out more and dig, and I learn something new. And this is why I love it. This is why I stay passionate. But you're absolutely right. We're unique, and every body is different, and how every body reacts and processes and how and the changes it goes through. So this is why I'm more about empowering people to listen to their own body first of all, kind of what you were just saying. And the second part around the food allergies, I don't know if you've been tested prior to menopause. Did you have sensitivity? Can you would you be open to sharing what your allergy?
Sure. I mean, I didn't really have any previous to menopause, and it sort of intrigues me because perhaps my threshold for those allergens were somewhat lower, and I wasn't really aware because it sounds surprising that you could have such a late onset from nowhere, right?
I agree, and it's interesting, but I would have been really curious. I'm not saying this is the answer. I'm just saying, as a nutritionist, this is how I would dive in deeper into yours. I would look at kind of your history, what you eat consistently. So, for example, let's take a look at insulin resistance. So, if you've been insulin resistant, and you're insulin resistant for, say that your doctor said, hey, you're on the borderline of diabetes. I know this is not you, Mary. I'm trying to keep this general, but let's say your doctor says you're kind of insulin resistant. You're sort of sitting in that area where you could tip the scale either way. Now that's a lifestyle and diet fix. You can fix that, but you're always hovering in that one little area. So this has kind of become what I call a weak link. That weak link, when your body's under other stress, going through hormone changes and doing other things, it does become more exacerbated, and perhaps it will send you into. We're using hypotheticals. I'm not suggesting. And please, this is just all hypothetical, but it will create a cascade. So you've done 20 years of kind of on the border of having too much sugar, and then you go through a big biochemical change within your own natural body because of its natural changes through life. It's going to make it a little vulnerable, and it's going to make it. And I'm not saying that's the case in yours. I'm saying that would be something I would investigate. But when we look at other cultures around the world, where the women don't suffer from menopause or perimenopause, they've led fairly simple lives, and they eat well, and they move their bodies every single day. They have good, strong, healthy relationships. They have good, strong family and friends, and they usually have a spiritual practice. And I can't say that more and more because I feel we have moved so far away from the nature of our bodies, and that's what I'm trying to encourage. Women are a bit more open to it. When I'm working with athletes, if I use terms like getting into nature with your body, they sometimes can be like, what does that mean? So I really, really like what you said about every body is unique, because that's absolutely the truth. So you would work with, say, someone like myself or a naturopath, and we'd dive into what is your body doing, what is it saying, so that we can give it, again, bringing it back to its greatest homeostasis where it can create the best for itself. People ask me about vitamins a lot in that area, like, oh, am I just taking it for, why am I taking vitamins? It's not changing what I do. And I said, well, I use vitamins as the type of a medicine. It's really hard to sell prevention. It's really easy to sell, you're sick, take this pill, it will fix you. That's much easier. And that's what we want. So we're always, we have to step away a little bit from the allopathic profile in terms of our healing and our bodies.
That's very much a Western approach, right? Is problem solution rather than anticipating and not creating a problem to begin with. So many things happening. And I was so excited about this. I thought, stress, the cause of colds generally.
Yeah, well, it lowers your immune, right? It lowers your immune.
Yeah.
And I mean, I give lectures just on stress, and that's an hour. Believe me, that's a big one because of what it does on the body. That's what it does. Is one of the things, and that can create that. So, stress can be a good catalyst, though. It's not always the bad guy. It can make good things happen too.
Exactly. And another area that I don't think is that well known, there is good stress and bad stress. I mean, we all need low anxiety stress is what energizes us to follow our dreams, right? It's the anxiety producing negative stress that we don't like at all.
Yeah, I believe stress can be your friend if you can harness it, you know. Yeah, harness it and take care of it. So you got to I have a whole protocol just for stress. So it can, I mean, there's, for example, let's just take an example. Let's make this real. A university student, a lawyer going through university, they have no choice on choosing stress or not stress. It's just stressful. It just is. So when I work with somebody like that and they're in dysbiosis and things are happening for themselves, first, obviously we look at the gut and all that kind of thing. But then I look at their stress response system and I help support their stress response system through foods and through vitamins to help them. So they're not able to and the third is obviously giving them some techniques that they can do, like standing up and moving, going for a run, deep breathing. If you stop and take 5 deep breaths, it can alkalize. You've been in that situation. I've been in that situation. I have a deadline. I've got things to go. I've got somewhere to be. I got to be on television. I got to do this. I got to do that. And it's like, okay, you know what? Just stop and take a breath. And I've been measuring that. So exercise, I work with athletes. Exercise is also stress. So I've been measuring myself at the gym when I'm on the treadmill. I've been doing, not treadmill, I've been on the elliptical. So I'll be running. So I'm doing cardiovascular. I get my heart rate up to about 150 and I'm sitting at around 150. And I kind of keep a nice steady as I can pace for that because I want to measure. And then I'll take 10 deep breaths and it will come down 4 points. So I know that breathing will help relieve that stress. And that's something you can actually do in a classroom, in an exam, on the bus, on the way to school, at your desk, so we can't always avoid stress. And so the end result of that stress is, you get a degree and you get a job, hopefully that you love, or a career that you've set up for life. And it's the same with weddings. Weddings are short-term, long-term stress. Where it gets tricky in the mind, and you talked about that, is the anxiety piece and constant stress. So this is how I tell my clients, when you're in stress, it's telling your body the bear is chasing you. So when the bear is chasing you and adrenaline gets released, the adrenals get called, they release adrenaline, so it gives you that superpower to keep going. It can be quite addictive because we can get into that space of, that adrenaline is keeping me going and going. And then and then 2 years later, that same bear is still chasing you. They're getting exhausted and they call in some help. So they call into the thyroid gland. And the thyroid gland is the epicenter of all your hormone production and your endocrine system. So when you're going through menopause and you're under extraordinary stress, and this is where all your hormones are, this guy already has a job. He's already working really hard. And now you're asking, hey, I need help. Can you jump in and help? Because these guys are exhausted and dried up. They're on holiday now. They're like, we need a break. You got to help. So between the adrenals, the thyroid, and then the pituitary within the brain, right? Mental health. Then this is where we see the problems, because then we've gone into long-term anxious stress, and that can be perceived stress. So we know that going to law school, or we know that raising children can be stressful. We have to have tools in place to help ourselves through that stress period because we know what's going to happen. And we need to talk the mental talk to ourselves. I'll give you an example because I know that sounds very broad. when I lived in London, and I love the drivers in London. They're incredible. They're great drivers. They're efficient drivers, and they're fast drivers. When I came back to Vancouver, my hometown, I was so angry every time I was behind that wheel. I just was like, nobody's signaling, people pulling out, pedestrians stepping in front, cyclists cutting out. And I started to notice that my stress was through the roof. If I'm in the car for half an hour, that was a lot of stress for half an hour. And it was not necessary stress. It was unnecessary stress. So this is what we have to tell ourselves. We have to measure our stress. Is this stress on a scale of 1 to 10? Where is it? And what part of it can I change within my own mindset to swap out how I believe that stress is perceiving my body? Because if you're at a red light and your heart rate's beating up because you're mad because the person hasn't gone yet and it's turned green, that is controllable. You can say to yourself, that guy's not don't let it affect your body, because your body's responding like a bear is chasing you, and it's using up that system for something that doesn't matter.
That's right. And we're talking about cortisol, and I was going to go into the whole
cortisol and menopause.
The menopot, and that's what we're feeding it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the clear signs of that on the body are when women get weight gain around their arms and around the midriff, the tummy. And we don't want to
talk about that, because I think that's probably the number one concern, and probably the most common menopausal symptom among women is that weight gain in those areas.
Yep. So like the first thing again is managing your stress. I would double check the liver, make sure it's processing properly. Obviously balancing those hormones, or figuring out the best way to balance and how to streamline and what you need to eat so that you're eating at your healthiest. Yeah, I know we slip so much into calories and, I've got to exercise harder. And I can't tell you how many women have come and been like, oh, I exercised and, and now I have to eat this less. I have to eat this much less food than I used to. I can't eat red wine anymore. I can't eat popcorn or whatever, it is. And these might be true for a while, for sure, because the weight gain comes on, and you do need to eat differently, but maybe you should have been eating differently your whole life, and I'm not a purist. I'm not, I love red wine. I love white wine. I love any kind of wine, really. So I'm not saying to be pure, because I don't believe that's a healthy, happy life either. But if you're exhibiting that weight gain, then you really need to see a professional to help you figure out what is creating that for you. And if it's cortisol, then you know what to do. Find techniques to lessen your stress, because that's a byproduct of your stress.
So I know we have to speak in broad generalities, because as we already mentioned, no one solution. But what would you recommend in the broadest sense of the word as an appropriate preventative and optimal health plan in terms of food? Like between protein and fats and carbs, do we have to adjust those levels? What's your take on all of that? I mean, how much change are we actually talking about?
Yeah, that really, Mary, that's really big, because to give you an example, the question to me, you're posing to me, I had one client who shall remain nameless, who came to me for weight loss, and was a lovely, lovely woman, quite successful, going through a difficult time. But she lived on 2 liters of Diet Coke and 5 bagels a day with cheese. So someone like that would get a very different protocol from me than someone like you, who already eats healthy and already exercises, and you already understand it. I think the question you're asking me is just generally, how should you eat? correct?
Yes. Yes. And do you have to be cognizant of lower calories? Or
Not about
more
counting calories.
simply?
Quality of
No.
food. I don't count.
Oh, okay. There we go.
I don't count calories at all. I haven't
Okay.
since, I don't know, forever. And I've been on every diet in the book, believe me. If you eat well, you're nourished, you crave less, your body's in balance, and you're satiated. So no, I don't believe in that at all. The general rule of thumb for me, if you want to eat well, eat 5 to 7 servings of vegetables every single day. Make sure that 5 of them are at least different color. So the rainbow spectrum. So what does that look like? That looks like a salad, maybe with some romaine. Maybe you're going to throw a little arugula in. This is super liver helping your liver. You might cut up some red pepper. Then you're going to throw in maybe a little bit of some avocado in there. So you're getting all the potassium and all that rich. And so when you talk about calories, avocados are a high calorie, high dense food. So I never look at an avocado and go, oh, I can't eat much of that because, I never think that. If I'm hungry, I'm going to eat an avocado. Sometimes I eat a quarter of an avocado. Sometimes I eat a whole avocado. If I'm in the car and I'm on a road trip and I have crackers and avocados, that's what I have. So what have we got now? We've got 2 types of greens, avocado, we've got a red pepper, super high in vitamin C. So for women with their collagen, trying to, obviously immune system building. And then I might, what else would I do? I do avocado, a red pepper. I would do 2 types of greens. I would put in some sprouts often, and then I put in nuts and seeds. Maybe I put in a little bit of goat's feta. So that to me, right there, of your 7 vegetables you need to eat a day, you've already had 5, and that's 1 salad. Let's say it's winter and you're like, I can't do that. Have a soup. Get a soup and put a whole bunch of different vegetables, or make a stew. Easy. And that's like, people, like, often the 2 complaints I get is I can't afford to eat healthy, or I shouldn't say that. Not everyone says that, but some people have said I can't afford to eat healthy, and I can't. Usually that's the younger kids, and then I can't afford, or I can't. Is time restrictive. So if you can spend an hour in the kitchen cooking dinner every night, you can spend an hour prepping a big stew, and then you have it for the week to eat, and you're getting all of your vegetables and nutrients there. So that would be my number 1 thing: fresh fruits and vegetables. I can guarantee you 90% of the people who walk through my door hardly eat vegetables, and I'm even talking about vegetarians and vegans.
Really?
Mm-hmm. People just don't realize. They just get out of the habit of eating the vegetables. They just,
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. They might eat 3 vegetables a day, but they certainly don't get what we need to have. So if you think of the world, if you think of the abundance of the world, if you look around and, what is the most available thing on the planet? Like this, right back to old-fashioned grocery shopping. It's plant life. It's the most abundant, and it's what we need to stay vital. It's what I did a 3-week raw food in San Diego at a place called Ultimate Health Institute, and we were measuring the food nutrient of sprouting food. And there's if you and your viewers wanted to look at it, but you can actually hear the sounds of it. So if you think of our cells like that, and we're eating foods that are emitting this kind of vibration, this sort of nutrition, like fenugreek is a master sprout. Everyone should be eating fenugreek in their. In fact, I should be eating fenugreek. I haven't had it for a while. But these are master sprouts that help keep our body cleansed. They clean the blood. They stimulate the flow of the cells. You get good mitochondria. These are the things that we need to do. So if you start thinking of food as medicine, it will start behaving like medicine. And it's accumulative. So let's say you go out to somewhere for a family dinner, and you're not eating optimally that night. I can tell you right now, your recovery will be much quicker. You will feel the effects of it immediately, which immediately jets you back into eating healthier again. So get back to the plan. So protein for women going through menopause, perimenopause is essential, as is muscle development, so that it prevents osteoporosis. I think most people know that now. That if you have good development and that you do some weight-bearing exercises, whether it be through yoga or Pilates, or you actually pick up some weights, it's essential that women do that. I've had a couple of clients that have hit 57, 58 that their bone density is definitely diminishing. So these are all things that you can take care of with lifestyle. Let's see what else. So protein is good. I love fats. Fats are awesome for our brain. They're awesome for our skin. I don't really break down how much. If somebody wants the macronutrients, I have the ability to do that. I do menu plans based on those macronutrients. So for some of the athletes I work with who need to have 200 grams of protein, I'll do a whole menu plan around their what their day looks like and how many calories. So if they're on a 3,500 day calorie diet or a 5,000 calorie diet, I base it around the macronutrients for them. For a menopausal woman, I would focus on protein. I would focus on vegetables and fruits for the collagen, to help the collagen to be reproducing. And for hormone balancing, I mean, you can use roots like maca, you know, depending on your symptoms, you know, if you have hot flashes and it's so funny. Did you have hot flashes? I didn't have any. I had none.
I had very few, and mostly in the beginning, and then not really. And the night sweats and perimenopause a little bit more.
Oh, I had the night sweats.
I was done with them. Yeah.
Yeah, I had the night sweats too. So that's our body literally burning off what we no longer need. It's like just getting rid of it. So that's natural. And you don't, you know, I'm really one to I try to align with nature as opposed to fight it. Now I get some women suffer terribly, but the areas I would look at is, what is your life? What are you choosing? What do you need to change to lessen those things that you hadn't listened to before, that now your body's actually calling you to listen to?
I think that's the key point, because I think if you've not been exercising regularly, if you've been eating more processed foods simply because of time and ease, these things catch up to you at menopause.
That's what I'm saying. It's a reconciliation. It's like if you were sort of borderline gluten intolerant your whole life and you eat a piece of toast every single day and a muffin every day at coffee break, that's what's going to turn up for you, right? And that might in you know, everybody's different how it's coming out. So those are the parts that you want to, menopause is asking you to relook at that stuff, and it's bringing it right to the surface for you. And I was not easy on my body, believe me. As a kid, I smoked, and you know, I lived in London, I lived in Paris, and I worked in the fashion industry. And you know, we played hard. You know, I wasn't always kind to my body. It wasn't until I had children where I really wanted to nail that. And even then, I'm not perfect. You know, I have a friend who likes potato chips, and when I'm with her, we eat them, you know, often with a glass of wine. And so you know, it's about balance. And we have to remember that part too, Mary. It can't be so restrictive, you know. When I see, or I've worked with people with eating disorders, I have to be very careful what I say, because they often know the macro and micronutrients better than I do, because they're so it's a mental game for them, and it's a control piece, and it's a disease. And so when I really just encourage people to listen to their body. If you have a glass of red wine and it's not suiting you right now, and gosh knows, when I turned 40, that happened to me. I don't think I drank red wine for 3 years because I just got terrible, terrible headaches. And then one day I went out on a limb and I thought, I'm going to try red wine. And by having avoided it, it possibly allowed my body to then say, okay, you can have it now. It's fine. So you have to listen to those cues. If you're getting up every day and you're dragging yourself out of bed, you have no energy, you've been in the night sweats, you shouldn't reach for a muffin and a cup of coffee. That's not going to be the thing to help get you back on track. You know? Oh,
well, that's good. So that does get you back on track then, because I think that is a very normal situation.
How to get yourself back on track. Okay, number 1, hydration. Start your morning off with a cup of water, or warm water with lemon juice. Warm water with lemon juice is, number 1, you're getting the water. Number 2, you're getting the lemon, so it's going to help with the hydrochloric acid in the stomach. Hydrochloric acid in the stomach is very important because it helps you break down the protein that you're going to eat later. So you want to have that. And as all things, we're an aging mechanism. These things start to kind of break down. So we want to make sure they're working optimally. So First of all, hydration. So I would say the number one thing I would say to most of my clients, again, it's sort of like the vegetable thing. Oh, I drink a lot of water, but then when they record with me, we realize they actually only drink 3 glasses a day. So I would encourage them to drink more. That would be one. Water can actually, I know even during COVID for myself, even just drinking water helped me sometimes just feel better. You know, when I just was in the dark days of COVID and we were all fearful, and just water hydrates your cells. It hydrates your mind. It hydrates your body. It flushes, it detoxes, it gets rid of the things that are no longer serving you, and it does it quickly. It supports your kidneys. It's really important. I do a little exercise with athletes where I show them what it's like, what their body does when they're dehydrated. And it's the same for us. We forget about that. So hydration.
I think we do. Yeah.
So
Water seems boring, right? As a flavor. So we're sort of used to having flavorful things and not appreciating the natural flavors of food and water. It's the same thing. Like sometimes I don't put a dressing on my salad because it's sort of nice to taste the actual raw flavors, right?
I know, right? Yeah. Well, when you fast or you go on a cleanse, all of a sudden that cucumber tastes like it has never tasted before.
Yeah.
You know, we could do a whole episode on that too. There's something called the bliss point. And the bliss point is what sugar is set at. And so in different cultures and in different countries, the bliss point set at where their profile for sweetness. And America has the highest bliss point.
For sure.
The UK does too. And so the point is that when you wean yourself from those foods, we're getting back to what the question was, is how do I make that better? That's what we're trying to get you back to. So break the habits of the things that you do every single day. So if you get up every day and you have a piece of toast, try getting up and having a smoothie. Or try getting up and having a bowl of oatmeal with flaxseed and hemp seed on top and raw and yogurt. That's easy. Mix it up. It's the things that you're doing. This, I mean, for the sake of time, I'm going to cut this really quick, but for the sake of making those changes, do what you do every day, or acknowledge what you do every single day, and change that today. Don't drink water today. Drink water. Go for 8 glasses. It's easy. Wake up with a glass of water, close with a glass of water. Even if you have, like for example, I have a peppermint tea in here. So this is a glass of water. I'm drinking a lot of water in here, but I am having the flavor of the peppermint tea. I like that in the afternoon. It freshens my breath. It makes me feel good. It's also got therapeutic properties in it, so it's good. And eat lots of fruits and vegetables, because you get 30% of hydration from your food by eating vegetables and fruits.
That's right. And we have to also remember that whenever we drink a caffeinated beverage or work out and sweat, we're losing hydration. So 8 glasses of water, but...
Well, I mean, I work with Olympic athletes, so they're having up to 5, like some of my guys will lose 3 kilos, 4 kilos a game. So, I mean, their hydration levels are much greater than ours. And that's when I then look into electrolytes and making sure they have balance in their hydration. For somebody who's going to an office every day, 8 glasses is fine. If you're going to the gym, you definitely want to have 1 or 2 extra liters, and you might want to look at hydration. You can have things like coconut water that would naturally do it. Make things like your add salt. I actually have an excellent electrolyte beverage recipe on my website if people want to look at that, and that's an easy thing just to make up at home. So if you're drinking more than 8 glasses of water, I'd look at those electrolytes if you're working out. If you're having a cup of coffee, the rule of thumb is to have 3 glasses of water to compensate for that cup of coffee.
Oh, that much, eh?
Yeah. And I love coffee too. Like I went off, because I talk about beauty and longevity a lot. Green tea shows extraordinary results. There's a lot of paper out there that is supporting it for longevity and for heart health in particular. Many, many things, but heart health is one that it's just like, whoa, you can't avoid the evidence. It's like, wow, this really helps. So, and ironically, it also provides caffeine, which is beautiful. That's a piece we love. But what it what green tea does, if you can, let's say this is going to be your thing you're going to try tomorrow. Let's say you're going to get tomorrow and you're going to make yourself a matcha tea. The reason you're swapping out your coffee, you're just going to try matcha for a bit. And the matcha tea is going to provide you the caffeine that you love. So it's going to give you that clarity and that mental focus, but it has L-theanine in it. So you get the caffeine, and first of all, coffee will spike and do this, and then you crash. We've all experienced that. The green tea, it will help you with the caffeine, so you elevate, and then you go like this for a couple of hours. So you kind of stay at this level. And up here is where the L-theanine kicks in, which gives you the calm and the relaxation. So you are peaked and focused through the clarity of the caffeine, but you're staying calm because of the L-theanine in it and keeping you. And then the decline of the green tea is this. It's awesome for skin. It's incredible for heart. Gosh, I can go on and on and on about it. It's incredible. So I went off of coffee for a month to experiment, because I have to take my own advice. What do I do every day? What do I need to swap out? How am I going to change it? I noticed I was getting a little bit more jittery, and I was getting cranky, and I was getting angry, and I could feel it myself after drinking my coffee. About an hour after drinking coffee, I was like, this is too much. I'm getting cranky. So I swapped it out for a month for green tea, and I still got the caffeine, so I didn't have the withdrawals. This is another thing. I didn't go through the withdrawals, which surprised me because I got the caffeine, but I stayed calm in the face of it. And I make it into a little matcha, so I use oat milk. So I made a ceremony of it, and that's what they use it for in Japan. If you can get ceremonial grade Japanese tea, it's the best. And you can tell, because the brighter the green tea is, the better quality generally it is. The darker it gets, I would avoid that. You're not quite getting the same health benefits.
Cool. We're close to the end of our time, so maybe we'll plunge in very briefly about supplements, and we already touched on that before, but are they necessary, or is it expensive pee?
Yeah.
So what do you find are necessary supplements?
Well, there's different kinds of supplements. There's water-soluble supplements. There's fat-soluble supplements. I have used supplements. I'm a believer in supplements. I use supplements. I use supplements with my clients, especially when they're going through a healing crisis, or we're doing some repair work, or we're trying to boost something in them, for sure. So expensive pee, I don't know. I use it, again, it's preventative. It might be expensive pee, because it can be expensive. Somebody who's had a heart attack, or it can be an expensive few months of taking high dose supplementation. I use supplements daily. I change them. I have some sort of basics that I take fairly regularly. I'm currently experimenting with a longevity program based on the aging systems of the body, and so I'm playing with those. So I'm 3 weeks into my first month of trying it. So check back with me in 3 months, and I'll let you know what my results are from it. But it's not allopathic, so it's hard to sell. But I have seen some incredible results, and I firmly believe in vitamins as a preventative measure for keeping myself at optimum as best I can. I can't predict if I'm going to get cancer or if I'm going to have a heart attack, but I'm going to do everything I can to hopefully prevent that from happening. We've all heard of the uncle who smoked till he was 100, and, the guy who was the marathoner who died at 35 on the line. So, I mean, there's no guarantees in life, but what we want to do, if you're use it. I'm straying from vitamins. I'm sorry. I want to get back on topic with that, because it's actually important to me. I have 120 protocols that I have set up for vitamin supplementation. So it can be anything from, I have a collagen cocktail kit is what I call it. I have an online system with 22,000 products. So I created kits in there so that I had some go-tos. Again, they're never. I have gut repair kits. I have cleanse kits. I have hormone balancing kits. Gosh, I've got kits for dry eye, for, oh my gosh, and the list goes on and on. So I I don't think it's expensive pee. And I think that it is the believer who believes. So if you're using this vitamin, whether it's placebo effect or it's not placebo effect, is up to you. A lot of the reason that I have this online system is because all of the vitamins I suggest are backed by science and are papered and cited by other practitioners that utilize these. I've worked with amazing doctors who've interviewed famous Nobel Peace Prize scientists who have proven the science behind. There's thousands of papers on vitamin C. Why it's not more out in the world, I don't know. I can understand it. But I guess it's up to your observer to decide for them whether it's right or wrong. But if you're working with me, you can bet your bottom dollar I'm going to be suggesting some vitamins.
And what's your quick take on collagen? Because you go into a pharmacy and you get the collagen with magnesium, the collagen with other vitamins, and it's sort of confusing. Like,
okay, so I've looked into collagen a lot. If you're going to supplement with collagen, depending on what you want, I mean, we're talking, these are minimal science differences. But if you're looking to improve your skin, generally the fish-based collagen is better for women or men and women who want to improve their skin. I love collagen for collagen production, not just for skin, but for bones, ligaments, tendons, hair growth, nail growth. All connective tissue in the body requires collagen. So supplementing with collagen is fine. I actually use something that helps your body to produce its own collagen, like you did when you were 21, and I'll share that with you if you want later or soon. But the other part is vitamin C, because without the vitamin C, it boosts your collagen. So it helps. It's like the key to unlock. So there was a doctor called Dr. Linus Pauling who was a Nobel Peace Prize winner, and he had a protocol for vitamin C with proline and lysine. So this particular doctor I know out of Toronto put together a line with vitamin C with lysine, because our body makes the proline naturally. So it's simple scoops where you take one scoop and has 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C, and I think it's 1,500 of lysine. So I love it because the science is showing us that the vitamin C, how the combination works is, if you can imagine your veins and how they atrophy or they harden, they develop plaque, right? This is what happens as we age. We have something called cholesterol, and cholesterol is going in to save. So when we have an artery or a vein with plaque buildup on it, we want that vein to be not only strong, we want it to be malleable, so that it can allow the passage of the oxygen and the nutrients to flow through, and to prevent that blockage of the heart stuff. So there's I mean, these are people I'm talking to that have done the studies. And I personally, my ex-partner had a heart attack, and this is a protocol we used for him. And he's not since had a heart. He's been without using medications. He did his whole protocol was a heart-based medical protocol. The placebo effect, we know, shows high efficacy rate in people. When they put people into a study, people who use the product and people who don't use the product, they see there's quite a high group of people who see. So I encourage you to use your mind. If this vitamin C is working for you, it's working for you because your body and your mind are working synonymously together to make it work for you. So I think that eating oranges, do I think that eating limes and lemons and having all these vitamin C rich foods is important? Absolutely. What happens if we don't have it? Well, we know historically we develop scurvy. So these are just boosters. To me, I use vitamins as medicine. Collagen, I think, is great. The collagen booster that I love, and I'm going to share it with you now because I love this company and I flew to Belgium. I interviewed them. I talked to them. I talked to their expert. I have tons of things. And this helps you to build your own. Can you see it?
Yeah,
there it is.
There it is.
And what it does is it helps you to make your own collagen. And like you did when you were 21, when collagen starts to decline. So I believe I like using collagen, and I've been using BioSil for geez, when did I get introduced to it? I think about 8 years ago, and I love it. And I have all my friends on it. I mean, I'm old and my hair looks pretty good and my nails and everything's still growing. So you know,
You're looking awesome.
But as we age too, like I've got a knee issue, and some people with tennis elbow, or I mean, they've used this. I know that in Europe they use this with professional athletes for the collagen regeneration in the body. So yeah.
Oh,
But I mean, in terms of supplementing collagen powder, sure, why not? But don't forget, you can also get it in your foods. Bone broth is an excellent source of natural collagen. So the next time you make a turkey dinner, boil up those bones. Beef bones is also an excellent source of collagen. So yeah, my first line of defense is always to eat it. The more you eat, the less vitamins you have to take. The less you're eating well, the more vitamins you might need to take to start eating better. And then those two areas meet, and then they can connect again.
yeah. I mean, we haven't delved into it, but if you're a vegetarian, even a pescatarian, certainly a vegan, all those things change because you can't reach out for bone broth, for example.
No.
Omega-3s.
Those are my that's these guys. That's this. This is that's a vegetarian product. And it helps your body to produce collagen. I take it with 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C. Yeah. Yeah, but you're right, Mary. Like vegetarians and vegans, they need more B's. And I mean, that's a whole other topic. But yes, they need other things. But they can get calcium from fruits and from vegetables. They can get protein from plant-based sources, and I have a whole SWACA list. If anybody needs to know where they are, just have them reach out to me, and I can send them a poster.
And omega-3s from kelp and seaweed
and flax and sesame flax. Yeah, you can get omega-3s. There's a really good product by Flora that has a vegetarian. He's the owner's vegetarian, and he has an excellent omega-3 oil product.
Well, we could be talking forever on these topics. I'd love for you to come back, because clearly there is a lot to discuss and understand. But thank you so much for busting myths today, and giving us clarity on how to approach menopause and optimize our health.
You're welcome. I mean, I guess that, the message in that is just listen to your body. And if you need to get some help from somebody who you trust, and but you trust your body. But yeah, thanks, Mary, for the opportunity. I think we were a little bit all over because this is how we roll. This is our first one together. So it's just like, okay, well, let's go. But I love it. I love it. It's a broad topic, and there's a lot. And you were really, really right in your messaging that every single body is unique. We all have different genetic expression. We have different family habits. We have different traditions within family life. These all come into play, everything. So getting to the nutritional need for you as an Indo-Canadian female versus Caucasian male, athletic male, like we want to figure out, we want to dive into what you're doing. We want to understand where your body's at, and we want to understand how we can change and create a little roadmap for you to be your optimum and best self. And I pride you doing it. I think it's great. I didn't, all those years ago when I met you, I didn't know that was your interest. So it's wonderful. All right, my doll, I must sign off. It's lovely to chat. Thank you for inviting me. It was a real pleasure to be here today.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful, and I hope you'll be back for more.
Yeah, let's do it again. I'd love it.
Thank you.
Bye.